All right, welcome back for lesson 3 in our third module. This one's all about how to make your lessons engaging and reinforcing. A lot of times when we think about making lessons fun for students, our go-to is games, but I want to talk about some other ways to liven up your lesson materials without making it all about games, which can take up a lot of time, and they're not always how you want to spend your lesson time. So the first way I want to show you to liven up your slides presentations is to add some visuals, add some content right within your slides. And one of the first things I want to show you, because it's a simple thing to do, is starting here from a blank Google Slides presentation. You can change the background of the slide. So for example, if you know your student's favorite color, you could put that in. You could differentiate between review and new content slides. I have in my letter sound slide deck, I have pink for vowels and yellow for consonants. I have a color for suffixes. I have a color for vocabulary words. So I have different colors for different content in the deck. You can also choose an image to be the background of the slide. So for example, if I wanted to have like a seasonal lesson plan or just, acknowledge that the season is changing, I can change the background of the slide using Google image search and insert the image. And then if I want to use the same image on each slide, you can click on slide and edit master, and then change the background of the master slide so that every time you create a slide like this, it's going to have that background. So now that becomes one of your choices. So when I choose to add a slide, it becomes one of my layout choices. So if it's something you're going to use a lot in a slideshow, you might want to edit the master. If you're just going to do one or two of those, you can also duplicate the slide and have more than one with the background. So that's one way to change. And one thing you can change is the background. And then if you want to type on this, obviously the default black type isn't going to work so well, but you can either use the paint bucket to change it to white or change it to a coordinating color, or undo that. The other thing you could do is change the type color to white or yellow, and then you can see how that shows up on the background. You might need to play with it a little bit to get the right color depending on your background picture. So that's something that can just add a little color and a little visual appeal to your lesson. I have one student who's a sports fan, and a lot of his lessons had baseball backgrounds. I've done my city as a background. I've done different things that I knew would interest the student animals. Another thing I do to engage students in lessons is I have this Jiffy extension, and when I got it from the Chrome Web Store, and when I click on it, it lets me search for a GIF, an animated picture to put in. So I usually pick cute animals, and I just kind of pick one. Here's a hedgehog floating in the tub, and you drag it over. And I like to enlarge it so it takes up most of the slide. And then when I present, they get that. So I will mix those in with my card deck so that as they're working hard, they're doing all their letter sounds, they get a little fun animation that pops up partway through. So that's one option for livening up your lessons. And another thing you can do along with that is use Slides Randomizer, which is an add-on. You can get that from here in the Slides menu. It says Get Add-ons. The Slides Randomizer, so you have to click it twice. Add-on Start, and then Slides Randomizer, Randomize Presentation. And it gives you the option to keep slide 1 as a title slide. This time I'm going to say no. Usually I do say yes. And now it's randomized. And you can see on the left here, it's moved the order of the slides around. So I do that with my card deck to so that we're not looking at things in the same order every time. And then I can also hide slides when I'm done with them, so you can't see that. You can click skip slide, and then when I present it, so I'll start at the beginning and present, you get welcome to our lesson, you get the hedgehog, and then that's it. It won't go any further because the third slide is hidden. So I do that when we're starting a level and I haven't introduced all of the relevant slides yet. Another thing you can do to liven up the actual content, well, is instead of reviewing the cards just in a slideshow, you can review them in a game like this. So I've created this custom card deck in playingcards.io. And so here's my, well, I set it to be a Go Fish layout. So when we start the game, I send the link to my student. We each take 7 cards from the deck. And I'll say, do you have the vowel team that says ow or o? And she'll say, oh, I have OW. And if she will pretend this is her hand. She'll put it down here. And then I can take those 2 cards and put them in my hand. This part of the screen down here is your hand of cards, so nobody can see it unless you show a card like this. And they have their own private hand. So this is a fun way to review sounds or review vocabulary, but it can be time consuming. And it's also a little challenging to figure out how to create this. I started with the Go Fish template, the Go Fish game that's here, and then I clicked Edit Table. And I clicked on the card deck here and clicked Edit Deck. And under card data, you can choose what's written on each of the cards. So you could type in each of these. I created them from a CSV file, which you could do. There's another video that shows how to do this. That's not mine, that I can link if you're interested. This was kind of a pain to set up, but now that I have it set up, I use this with a lot of my students who are working on vowel teams and are controlled vowels. That's what's in this review deck. So I use that quite a bit. Another engaging way to practice sounds or words is with the random wheel on wordwall.net. Again, I don't have a subscription to this site, so I am limited to what I can find that people have already created. So for example, they have this one with vowel sounds, vowel teams. And it works like this. So you start the game and you spin the wheel, and they read the sound that it lands on. So they say, OA says O, and then you can either resume, leave it on the wheel, or you can eliminate it. And when you eliminate it, it resizes the other. So as you go through each of these, it eliminates ones that are done, which is good because you're practicing all different sounds. And you could have them play until they finish all the sounds, or you could stop at a certain point. So that's another sort of more fun way to practice sounds. That's definitely taking us into game territory. There are some other games that I would recommend. Wordwall.net has a lot. If you go under community, you can search for a specific skill. So if I wanted CVC words, you can find all the different activities that different teachers have created using them. There are word sorts. There's this whack-a-mole game where you hit the mole if it fits the category. So in this case, it's hit the real words. Those kids love those and love to play them over and over again, although they do get kind of repetitive. So there are word sorts, there are multiple choice activities. So there are a lot of different things already available on Wordwall that you might be able to use. Another option for playing games would be something like funbrain.com. Some of these are strictly educational, reading or math related, and some of them are just fun games. They do have some books here now, and also in the games area, they have all kinds of different things. So these might be fun for an earned game break. And what I like about FunBrain is I know that I'm getting games that are safe for kids. If you're willing to invest a little more time in a game, like if the student has earned all their stickers or something, you can go to tabletopia.com, and a lot of these are free to play and easy to get into. I've searched here for games appropriate for kids between 3 and 10. You can search by number of players, by playing time, which I think is great, and by language, and you can sort them in different ways. So they have simple, familiar games like chess, and they also have a lot of board games that I am not familiar with. So you might want to preview these and be able to give your student a couple of choices, but this is a nice option if you're looking to invest a little more time and energy in playing a game with a student. Another way to make your lessons more interactive for students and to get them to sort of buy in is to give them a written schedule, let them know what to expect during your lesson, and also to give them some choice in the matter. So I have a sample board here. I made this in Jamboard. And I have on each of these sticky notes a part of the lesson that we need to accomplish. And I might tell them that our new concept has to be number 5. And before we do that, here are our choices of review activities. And then after our new concept, here are the things we're going to do. So do you want to do the auditory drill first? We're going to work on fluency. We're going to do some review reading, and we're going to work on irregular words. So I could give the student editing rights to this file. I could say share and change to anyone with the link can edit this board. And then if I send the link to the student, they will be able to click and drag these things. They'll also be able to delete them and change them and scribble on them, but they will be able to move these around and make their choices. So you could also use this. You could also set the schedule, and then you could say, all right, well, when we finish, you get to put things in the done pile. So, oh, we're done with the auditory drill, put it in the done pile over here. So that just gives the students an additional opportunity to engage with your material and a little bit of ownership over the schedule of your lesson. Another strategy I use, especially with younger students or students who are slow readers, is I often say, like, we're only going to do 2 out of these 3 things. So here are 3 options, you pick 2. Here are 3 sentences, you pick 2. And to a limited extent, I can also give them the choice of content. I have 2 stories about Long I. Do you want to read this one or do you want to read that one? And that sort of gives them a little bit of control over the lesson. When it can seem really hard, it's nice to have a little bit of something that they can hold on to and take ownership of. So another really important component of Orton Gillingham in general, and of online tutoring in particular, is making sure that you make the lessons interactive. So some strategies for that are to share a document with the student, share it in Google Slides or in Google Docs so that they can interact with the document themselves. They can type on it, they can underline things. That's the best option for students using iPads and Chromebooks who can't effectively take control of your mouse in Zoom. They can also use the Zoom Annotate tool or this cool extension, which is called WebPaint. And they would do this with your shared mouse. Where is WebPaint? Here's WebPaint. So WebPaint has a lot of the same features of the Zoom Annotate tools, and it's similar in that it's writing on the screen as opposed to in the document. So if we were, and we could do this even on the game board, we could do WebPaint even on the game board like this. So I could say, remember, you're going to pick your cards from here and match 2 cards. So I can change all this, and then this is all happening. This is a layer on top of the website. So while this is up, I can't also play the game. And when I'm done, you can close the control panel, but you still have the same tool. So when you are done with this, you need to exit, quit in the bottom right, and then you go back to your website. So it's not as flexible as Zoom Annotate because you can't continue to use the website while you have the drawings on the screen. But if you're doing something like marking up something, an article posted on the web or something else that fits on the screen, that can be a fun way to do it. It has a few more options than the annotate tool in Zoom. Another option for making lessons really interactive is to put a PDF in the Kami extension. So this file I opened in Kami is a lesson plan it's an early Orton Gillingham lesson plan. So here is the review list with, actually this would be the new word list with short I and short A vowels. And we can do a lot with that. So typically I just open this in a Word document. I might use the Zoom annotate tool to underline words or ask the student to find things, but this is a fun way to do it. And this sticks to the document itself as opposed to sticking to the screen. So if I open the document this way, we can then create a sort of a guide for the student for when they practice this after the lesson. So I might say, read this row and underline a word that means a place to sit. And so they might underline lap. And if they underline sit, we can talk about the vocabulary and say like, oh, is a sit a place you sit? If they're having difficulty with a particular part of the word, like say they're having difficulty with the voiced and unvoiced sounds of D and T, I might say, oh, underline all the t sounds you see on this page. And here they go. Here's t and t. And now circle the d sounds so they find the d sounds. So it just gives them another way to interact with the lesson. And then when you print this, you have the option to print the original or print it with annotations. So if you want these notes to go to the student, you can print with annotations. If they have written so much on the screen that it's not really functional anymore, you can print the plain one to PDF as well for them. So annotating with Kami is a great way to keep lessons engaging and fun. They can also type. So if one thing that you're losing, if you choose to present in Kami, is you can no longer edit the list like you could in a Google Doc. So if they are confused about something, if you wanted to highlight these words and say like, oh, there are two different words here, there's bin and there's din, and you could do some B and D work there. You could do that to reformat it. You also have the option to highlight text. So you could take a highlighter and instead of asking them to circle or underline, you could ask them to highlight words with certain features. And as you scroll, that stays with the page, which is helpful. Make a mistake, you can erase things. You can draw shapes. So if you wanted to illustrate a concept or have them do a Venn diagram, you could do that with shapes right here on the page. So Kami is a really nice, versatile tool. There is a paid version. I have always used the free version. I took a trial of the paid version at one point because I had to sign some things online, which is a nice feature, but not something I use often. So the free version is the best fit for me for tutoring. Another option for making lessons interactive, especially for kids using Chromebooks, would be to use Smart Learning Suite online, and I'll show you a little bit about that next. So I'm not going to go in depth in how to set up Smart Learning Suite online. It comes along with the Smart Notebook software, originally designed to be used with a smartboard, but Smart Learning Suite Online is their solution for distance learning districts where students have their own devices. So I have created my lesson list as a handout, and this is the teacher view, but the student view is very similar. And there are pen tools available. You can make it a thick highlighter, or you can make it a thinner pen. Oops. Like this. You can zoom in on the page. This just happens on your side. So if you have a small screen and mature eyes, like I do, you might want to zoom way in, and that also means you can sort of annotate things a little more finely with the thin line. You can erase your annotations. And if you have a student login, even as a guest, they don't need a password or anything. You and the student can both work on the same copy of the handout, and they can do all these things on their copy. So this is something that I use a lot with my Chromebook using students, because then we can both annotate on the page. It makes it a more active process for them than watching me do it on Zoom. So this is one of the few paid tools I use. I have an annual subscription, but I think it's very much worth it. The final option for making things a little more interactive is to use Jamboard. So I showed you Jamboard here as a way to just plan and organize your lesson. You can also use Jamboard to present the content of your lesson. So you could type your words in a text box like this. You could type them directly on the Jamboard. That's one option. Another option Another option would be to use the snipping tool to take a picture of some text that you have, copy it to your clipboard, and paste it in your Jamboard. So that is an image from the page that you had. You can resize it. And either way, the students will be able to write on it. One challenge with Jamboard is if they're using the cursor and they click on something, they can move it around. It doesn't lock things into place, which Smart Learning Suite does. And if you're writing on a PDF, obviously they're locked into place as if they're on the printed page. So Jamboard can be a little fussier that way, but it's a nice quick option. It's free for your students who are using Chromebooks. So I think that's a really good alternative. So those are my tips for making online learning lessons more engaging, for connecting with your students. And I'm curious, what is your favorite way to get to know your new students and to find out where they are? So let me know in the Facebook group, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye.